This is Live Epistles. We provide information on this channel about life so that you can live the life and improve upon your spiritual development. We do not brainwash, but simply present matters about life as objectively as we can. Neither do we seek to attack any other teachings or portray that we are the best. Welcome to the 6th episode, and the topic is Esoteric Christianity Explanation of the Spirit, Soul, and Body. Our source of information, as usual, is the Western Wisdom teaching, also known as Esoteric Christianity. My name is Seddoh Bokor. Let us begin with self-test. Question number 1. Is there a clear difference between the spirit and the soul? Your answer could be yes, no, or undecided. Question number 2. Can the spirit in a human being become perfect without the soul? Your answer could be yes, could be no, or undecided. Mark yourself by the end of the presentation. The topic, once again, is Esoteric Christianity Explanation of the Spirit, Soul, and Body. And for this lecture, you may need to update yourself with lecture number 2 or our presentation number 2, which is the various bodies of a human being, and lecture number 5, which is the pilgrimage of spirits through matter. Let us recap a summary of some of the things we have said over the period that are salient for this presentation. We said that human beings were initially differentiated in God of our solar system, not God of other solar systems, in the beginning of the pilgrimage of spirits through matter. We were differentiated as virgin spirits, pure spirits, but without any creative experience. Our 3 spiritual aspects were activated first. The divine spirit aspect, the life spirit aspect, and the human spirit aspect were activated first. Then the material counterparts were built. The material counterparts of the dense body, the vital body, and the desire body. And finally, the mind was given as the spiritual vehicle to link the threefold spirit to the threefold body. And we gave this diagram, where to the top you find the threefold spirit, and to the down you find the threefold body. The ego for the spirit, and personality for the bodies, the material bodies, both linked by the mind. We also said that the essence of the spirit journeying through matter is to expand its consciousness, epigenesis or creativity, and will. As spirits, we were unconscious of the physical world throughout the journey until we got to the 4th stage, where our consciousness was turned to the external world as we have it now. We also attained self-consciousness. So 2 things happened. Our consciousness was opened to the external world as we have it now. And also we ourselves, we had self-consciousness individually. From the time that we attain this self-consciousness, we are required, every human being is required to work by experience, epigenesis, and reason in order to unfold the godlike potentialities to become perfect, to be like God. For today's presentation, we will not talk much about the spirit and the body, but focus on the soul. We will see how all of them, or the three of them, the spirit, the soul, and the body, perform as one towards spiritual development of the individual. What are the learning objectives? By the end of the presentation, you should identify the commonalities and differences between and among the spirit, soul, and body. And also, be familiar with the important role of the soul in spiritual development. During life, the ego works on and in this threefold body. Now, for the spirit to work on and in the threefold body, it requires the link of mind, which human beings have, unlike animals. The working of the spirit in and on the body brings about soul. If you already have some knowledge about what is the soul, please don't be surprised that we're saying that soul is derived as a result of the spirit working in and on the body. Please be adaptive. Adaptability is key to assimilating a new teaching. Let us see how this explains itself. How do we know about the soul? In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23, we read among others that, "May your whole spirit, soul, and body be kept blameless at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ." The soul, therefore, is the spiritualized product of the material bodies. Let us remind ourselves that during evolution, the spirit descended from the world of God into this physical world without self-consciousness. But on the fourth stage, it attained self-consciousness. From the time that we attained self-consciousness, we are supposed to move upward in our going back to God in order to become perfect by the use of the soul, no more the material bodies. So the work of the spirit in the material bodies will produce the soul, which the spirit will now use in the upward spiritual progress. You may refer to lecture number 4 to have a sense of what we are saying. We showed in that lecture this diagram, which shows involution, which is to the left, and then evolution, which is to the right. In involution, the spirit was coming down all the way until it got to the chemical region of the physical world, where it was unconscious. But then its unconsciousness was turned to self-consciousness as we are now. It has completed half of the journey, and it is supposed to now move upwards back to God. And in going back to God, it is supposed to use self-consciousness to become omniscience. Let's just look at it. Just as the spirit used the material bodies for its descent through the material worlds to gain self-consciousness, so shall he use the soul consciously for its upward spiral progression through the spiritual worlds to become perfect. By the time that the spirit ends its journey, humanity, that's those who qualify. It's not just anybody. Those who worked hard to qualify will have moved from the state of impotence to omnipotence, from the state of self-consciousness to omniscience, then this is what will happen. We will have developed higher consciousness, creativity, virtue, and spiritual powers. For what? To create living things, give them mind, desire, and vitality, so that those living things that we create can also think and take action as we do now by the help of higher beings. But it is not an immediate thing. It is still a long way off. The soul, therefore, is a quintessence, the essence, the force, the power of the body that the spirit will use. When the material bodies have been rightly used, the soul is extracted from them and absorbed by the three aspects of the spirit, which initially generated the material bodies. The soul is threefold. The soul is threefold. The fruitage of the spirit, what the spirit gains to add to itself from the use of the threefold body. Now, this spiritual extract, which is the soul, goes to nourishing. It nourishes or improves the spiritual aspects, the divine spirit, the life spirit, and the human spirit. They are improved as a result of the soul. The mind is equally improved. At present, the mind is not properly focused. We are not using it the way we are required to use it. We haven't sharpened it enough. So that even in science, there has to be experiments so that the right answer is found. For now, the mind is misty, it is clouded, but progressively, we are improving upon it. The soul has qualities. What are they? Two very important qualities of the soul is conscience and virtue. Normally we use these words, but we may not know that they are actually spiritual qualities of the soul. Conscience is the fruit of past mistakes, things that we did not do well, which presently or in the future will guide us as a result of the lessons we have learned and teach the spirit how it shouldn't commit such mistakes. That is conscience. It is an aspect, a very strong aspect of the spirit. That is why some people, their conscience is more active, is more alive than some other people. The other one is virtue. Virtue is the essence of all the good things that we have done in the past and act as an encouragement for us to keep doing the good thing, aspire to do the good things, that which is right, that which is ennobling, and that which is beautiful. These two aspects of the soul are very, very important. In lifetime, human beings, as we are, become more soulful. Our soul qualities improve some more as a result of conscience and virtue. They are the ones that guide us in our conduct. So if you do not have a good conduct, it is not something that you have imported from anywhere. It is an aspect of your spirit, your soul, that you have built over the period. Now, as said earlier on, the threefold soul nourishes the threefold spirit using the threefold body. So you see three emerging. The threefold spirit uses the threefold body and derives the threefold soul. Now, this threefold soul One aspect is the conscious soul. It is extracted from the use of this dense body, and this dense body connects with the divine spirit. The intellectual soul, which is the second, is an extract from the use of the vital body. And this intellectual soul connects with the life spirit. And then the third one, which is the emotional soul, extracted from the use of the desire body and also links to the human spirit, is key in making the threefold soul complete. So we have the threefold soul, the threefold body, and the threefold spirit, connected by the mind. So in effect, a human being is made up of tenfold constitution, as the diagram portrays. This is a complete set of the constitution of a human being. We are actually tenfold when you add the threefold soul to it. The threefold soul, when you add it to the sevenfold, you get 10. So when you go to the psalmist, he says, "Praise the Lord with harp. Sing unto him with a psaltery, an instrument of 10 strings." Psalm 33, verse 2. The tenfold constitution of a human being. Let me explain this diagram. To the left, we have the threefold spirit: the divine spirit, the life spirit, and the human spirit. The divine spirit is in the blue color. It connects to the dense body, which is also in the blue color. Then the dense body generates or brings about the conscious soul. So you can see the green arrow from the dense body to the conscious soul. Then from the conscious soul, you can see a long blue colored arrow that goes straight to the divine spirit to show that the conscious soul feeds the divine spirit. It is the same thing when you go to the life spirit. The life spirit is in the yellow color. It generates the vital body, the yellow color, and the vital body lays to the intellectual soul. And you can see the yellow color, the intellectual soul feeding the life spirit. The same applies to the human spirit in the red color. The human spirit generates the desire body, and from the desire body, we derive the emotional soul. The emotional soul, as indicated in the red long arrow, feeds the human spirit. In all this, the mind still works. So this is the complete set of the tenfold constitution of a human being. How do we develop the soul? These three aspects, the conscious soul, the intellectual soul, and the emotional soul, how do we develop them? Let us begin with the conscious soul. How do we develop it? We develop it as a result of right action. And the conscious soul, as we have said, is based on the use to which we put this dense body, this physical body. The right actions that we take using this physical body will generate the conscious soul. How does it then grow? It grows by awareness of your actions. Often we do things routinely and we don't even become aware of our own actions. We don't do things on autopilot. You need to constantly remind yourself, be aware of your own actions. When you wake up from bed, throughout the day to the time that you sleep, what actions did you take? Why did you take them? But just following your routines may be problematic. If we should ask, the past 4 hours, can you recollect the actions that you took and the reason for taking them? Being aware of these actions to which you put this physical body is what brings about the conscious soul. And also, the external impacts that come to you, are you aware of them? The people you meet, the things that they say, are you aware of them? And then the experience that we gather, the lessons that we learn from the experience, these are the things generally that lead to the building, the development of the conscious soul. We do that every day, except we might not be conscious of what we are doing. Now, what are the specifics? We want to look at some of the specifics in improving upon your conscious soul. Observation is key. Can you just recollect how things are arranged in your room? Can you just recollect the person you met about 2 hours ago? What was he or she wearing? Observation is key. And then discrimination between what is good and what is bad, and doing that which is good. We must have that as part of our everyday life. Not just anything goes, but firm in deciding between what is good and what is not good. Are we making good use of our opportunities, our talent, and our abilities? When we make good use of them, we are developing the conscious soul. Are you hardworking? Do you persevere? These are some of the qualities that go into improving upon the conscious soul. And importantly, adaptability, or you are conservative. As for you, the way things are, that is the way they ought to be, and that ends it. You don't want to adapt. Adaptability is also very important to the building, the development of the conscious soul. How do we develop the intellectual soul? The efficient work of the spirit in the vital body. Now, not just the physical body, we are now moving to the second body, which is the vital body. The efficient work of the spirit in the vital body promotes the growth of the intellectual soul. It grows principally by memory. Memory of things that we have done. Not just bare memory, but the feelings that came with the things that we have done. That is how the intellectual soul is developed. What are the specifics? We need to improve upon our memory. Actions that we have undertaken, do we remember them? We need to recollect them every time. We need to think in the abstract. Abstract thought builds the intellectual soul a lot. Mathematics, logic, philosophy, algebra, all this thinking in the abstract helps in building the intellectual soul. Our thoughts and our ideas in the mind, we need to build them so that we can have original thinking. We can be creative, bring new things to the world. And you do a lot of intellectual work. All these things goes into improving upon the intellectual soul. Writing, reading, composing music and all that. It goes to improving the intellectual soul. We do it, except that we are not really conscious that it is this aspect of the soul we are working on. How do we develop the emotional soul? The higher activity of the spirit in the desire body promotes the growth of the emotional soul. The emotional soul grows by the feelings and the emotions that actions and experiences have on us. Devotion to high ideals. Devotion to high ideals, noble ideals, they help in the growth of the emotional soul. And then spiritual exercises, including prayer, helps a lot in developing the emotional soul. Now, what are the specifics about developing the emotional soul? We go back to looking at the desire body, as we mentioned in our past presentation. And we remind ourselves of the two lower and higher aspects of the desire world and the desire body. The lower desires and the higher desires. They are very important. Look at the lower desires. Materiality. Where you spend all your time, all your energy, concentrating on only the material things of this world, without thinking about spiritual things. Greediness, selfishness, hatred, jealousy, deception, pride, forgery. These low desires don't build any soul quality for us. Rather, let us focus on the higher desires. Unconditional love, altruism. You are caring and sharing with others. You are there to support people every time. You have compassion and you are truthful. You offer selfless service. You are a peacemaker. You have self-control. You are humble. You have sympathy and empathy for people. Holiness and spirituality, these are the higher things that we must pursue in order to develop our emotional soul. So, overall, the emotional soul, it adds to the efficiency of the human spirit. The intellectual soul gives added power to the life spirit. And the conscious soul increases the consciousness of the divine spirit. The divine spirit is the highest. Eventually, it will absorb the emotional soul and the intellectual soul and other spiritual derivatives, which we haven't spoken about yet, but with time we'll speak about them. The divine spirit will absorb all of them at the end. Then humanity becomes perfect. We will then have the creative fiat and power to create new things. Let us take note. The conscious soul, the intellectual soul, and the emotional soul are affected by every action. None of them works in isolation. We only separated them in this presentation for the purposes of emphasis and clarification. Nonetheless, at every point in time, depending on what you are doing, you add to the soul quality of one of them more than another. That is the way our everyday activity influences our soul qualities. We are aware on this channel that there are other explanations of the soul. We do not seek to portray that ours is the best. We are at different levels on the same ladder. It is in this regard that we now want to look at the relevance of our explanation to the following. In the Bible, Ezekiel 18:20, we read, "The soul that sinneth, it shall die." And also in Genesis 2:7, "And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. You might have heard these quotations before and may be wondering, how do our explanation of the soul connect to them? Let us remember that the Bible does not teach that the soul is immortal, but says emphatically, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. That never applies to the spirit. The Bible never made such reference to the spirit. Now, even though the soul is used loosely, interchangeably with the spirit, there is a clear difference between the spirit and the soul. So, Genesis does not mention the spirit of either man or animal, but talks about the soul. The spirit has no beginning. It is by itself. But the forms that animal and man have, and sustained by breath, had a beginning, and that is exactly what Genesis records and shows us. That conclusion is perfectly in line with the words of Solomon. If you look at Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 19, where we are told that, and the reference is made to the body, which is formed of the dust. Man has no preeminence above the beast. For as one dies, so died the other. They have all one breath, and as one dies, so died the other. All go unto one place. So, the Bible, let us remember, was not originally written directly in English language. It was a translation. If you look at the Hebrew word of ruach and the Greek word pneuma, both refer to the spirit. Similarly, if you look at the Hebrew word neshama and the Greek word sukkah, refer to soul. Now, in addition, the Hebrew word has nephesh, which means breath, but has been translated as life in some places and soul in other places, as suited the purposes of the translators. And that is where the confusion is. For instance, we are told in Genesis that Jehovah formed man from the dust of the earth and blew into his nostrils the breath, which is nephesh, of life. And man became a breathing creature, nephesh chayim, not a living soul. So we have a translation problem here. We are told in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, 19 and 20, I'm talking about verses, for example, that there is no difference between man and animal. As the one died, so died the other. For they have all one breath, which is nephesh. So man actually has no preeminence above the beast or the animal. We all go to the same place. But there is a definite distinction that is made between the spirit and the body. For we are told that when the silver cord, and we have spoken about the silver cord at length, when the silver cord is loosed, then shall the body return to the dust whence it was taken, and the spirit to God who gave it. The death, or the word death is nowhere connected with the spirit. We are told the spirit goes back to God, but there is death for the soul, and there is death for the body. The doctrine of immortality of the spirit is definitely taught, at least once in the Bible. Spirit doesn't die. If you refer to Matthew chapter 11, verse 14, Christ said concerning John the Baptist, "This is Elijah." Meaning that the spirit which had once inhabited the body of Elijah came back as John the Baptist. We're talking about the spirit, not the body. Spirit never dies. The spirit must, in the case of John the Baptist, have survived bodily death. Of course he did. And capable of continuity of life. So, generally speaking, the doctrine that a spirit or ego may be lost in the sense of being destroyed is without foundation. The spirit can never be destroyed because it is part of God. Otherwise, look at Acts 17, verse 28, where it is written, "In God we live and move and have our being." So that if a single spirit were lost, a part of God will be lost, and that is unthinkable. A part of God can never get lost. In no case, however, is the spirit destroyed. But, and this is a big but, the fruitage of its pilgrimage will be lost. If the spirit doesn't conduct itself well, all the things that it has gathered throughout the process of pilgrimage will be lost. That is how come the soul will die, because the spirit has lost all that. Even when the spirit has lost all that, it will have the opportunity to enter into a new pilgrimage, but not with the original colleagues with whom it has started the journey. No, but with another batch. Because eventually, it will have to go back to God as a creative intelligence, a self-conscious creative intelligence. So as we do things contrary to the laws of God, we should bear in mind that we are at the risk of losing our soul qualities. We stand the risk of killing our soul qualities if we continue to do the wrong things. Our soul will disintegrate to indeed justify what has been said, that the soul that sinneth, it shall die. In such a case, the spirit reverts to a certain savagery, idiocy. It cannot even use the mind properly, since no good quality remains with it. Only the animalistic evil qualities remain with such a spirit as a result of using low desires. And those low desires must be purged at the right time, which we'll be talking about when the issue of death comes for us to present on. How does knowing the soul benefit the individual? This lecture about the soul, how does it benefit the individual? To answer this question, we need to go back to episode 1 of our presentation and look at the classes of people in the world and their philosophy about the purpose of life on earth. The ordinary or the ignorant person has no idea about the spiritual things we talk about. Will not even bother himself or herself. He will not save any time. He will not listen to any teaching. And will not care about the soul. For such a person, it is a waste of time. How about the materialist or the scientist? The materialist will debate the teaching about the soul and deny that there is anything like the soul. The scientist will ask, can it be proven scientifically? If it cannot be proven scientifically, forget it. For him, there is nothing like the soul. How about the religious person? Of course, the religious person will agree that there is the soul because the religious books say so. He may seek an explanation that appeals to the power of God, since human beings cannot prove the soul. How about the esoteric person, the spiritual person? Such a person knows for sure that there is the soul, what it is, its value, and how it should be developed as qualities towards spiritual development. Regardless of whether the ordinary person, the ignorant person, the materialist, or the scientist knows about the soul or not, so long as right actions are taking place, memory of them is on the increase, and there is persistence in loving, self-forgetting service, the soul qualities are being developed by the individual, whether you know it or not. That phenomenon of the soul does not need anybody's approval, neither any institution's authority. It is something that God has given us. But unlike the others, the esoteric person who is more informed knows precisely what he or she is doing and should do to increase the pace. The word over here is to increase the pace of spiritual development. Friends, our daily activities provide us with the opportunity to increase our soul qualities, our temperament, the knowledge that we have, our capacity to forgive, the love that we have for others, the selfless service that we offer, our truthfulness and our sincerity, how we help others, they count a lot in developing soul qualities. We do not have to die before these soul qualities are integrated with the Spirit. Of course, when we come to talk about death, we'll show how these things happen. We can do it every day by spiritual exercises of retrospection and concentration. Of course, we will come to talk about the spiritual exercises, and we go into details about retrospection and concentration. But briefly, retrospection is a review of daily activities. Review your activities during the day, judging yourself where you have done well, judging yourself where you haven't done well, and aspiring to do better the next day. In retrospection, you play back all these events in your mind's eye, in a reverse form. Concentration, early in the morning, you wake up, you concentrate on something that is beautiful, something that is inspiring, something that is ennobling, something that brings about service to others, love to others. In conclusion, let us strive and move away from the lower desires. Let's concentrate more and do the higher ones. It works better that way. Let us concentrate more and do the higher ones. Let us act aright. Let's be conscious of our thoughts, our words, our feelings, our actions. Let us be conscious of them. Let us not do them. Then we say, oh, sorry. Let us think through them before we act. Let us work harder by the right use of these bodies. Let us build more soul qualities so that we can enhance our spiritual development. These things are not just simple and easy to do, but gradually, progressively, and with persistence, we can do them. I hope you have learned something useful today. If you have any questions, you can write in the comments section. Let us meet again in our next lecture, where we will be talking about what is spiritual development. More often people think spiritual development is something extraordinary. No. Soul quality development is key to spiritual development. We'll be talking about them when we meet again. Thank you very much.